Okay, we're just going to continue on where we were. Don't write anything unless I tell you. Well, when we read through your book, it talked about animal classification and said we had named a million animals, and there could be tons and tons more that we have not discovered. The reason for that is because certain areas of the tropical rainforest are super dense and difficult to find every little critter, to find every little insect. Also, the bottom of the ocean has been explored very little. So there are some opportunities there to find some more things. Go ahead and write this down. The first characteristic scientists use to classify a new animal. Okay, so I brought this up before, but if I find a little furry little critter in my backyard and no one has ever seen this thing before, it has never been discovered, it's never been recorded, how would we go about classifying this animal? The first way is we're going to ask, is it a vertebrate or invertebrate? I would like you to write this. If it has a backbone, it is a vertebrate. Okay? Us mammals, reptiles, birds, amphibians, okay, even a snake, which is a reptile, has a backbone. Invertebrates are soft-bodied, sponges, worms, jellyfish, insects, clams. Those are all invertebrates. So I'm going to ask this little critter that I found, does it have a backbone or no backbone? If I'm going too fast, you can always pause. The next thing I'm going to use, I'd write this down, is the type of symmetry. The type of symmetry. I'd write down these three things here and I'd say one central point, two sides similar, and no definite shape. But from your book and from an assignment that we had, if an animal has radial symmetry, it means that as long as you go through the center point, it's probably going to be the same. Now, just so we know, symmetry is if you cut something in half or fold something in half, it's the same on both sides. So radial symmetry, a perfect example of that. Radial kind of means circular. If you have a radial saw, the blade is circular. A starfish has radial symmetry. When you go through the center point, there's tons and tons of ways you could fold it or cut it in half and it would be the same. If you have bilateral symmetry, most animals have bilateral symmetry, including us. You can fold it basically one way, right down the middle. Okay, we as humans, if you cut us right down the middle, okay, we have an arm on each side, a leg on each side, an ear on each side, eyes, all that stuff. We have bilateral symmetry. And then asymmetry means no matter how you fold it or cut it, it is not going to have symmetry. There's a couple things like sponges tend to be asymmetrical. We do have really good bilateral symmetry, but we're not perfect. You might notice this about yourself. People often have like an eye that is slightly higher than the other one, or an ear that's slightly higher, or you might notice that like your wrist on one hand is slightly bigger on one than the other. Okay, we do have some differences in symmetry, but overall we're pretty bilateral symmetry. Write this down. Why don't you just say 9 phylums, or 9 animal phylums, something like that. We're going to just list these. These are the ones we're going to be going over the next couple months. So 9 phylum. Sponges. That's where we're going to start out with. And there are some weird names, like the fancy name for a sponge is Porifera, but we'll just say sponges. Cnidarians. Okay, like jellyfish and sea anemones. Flatworms. Like a tapeworm. Roundworms. I believe a heartworm is a roundworm. Mollusks, like that snail there. Annelids, like our earthworm that we're going to dissect. Segmented worms. Arthropods, like the crayfish that we will dissect later on as well. Echinoderms, like a starfish. And then chordates, like our perch, our frog, our rats. Those are the major phylum we're going to focus on. There we go.